Hi everyone, this is Phil Travis. This announcement is for my American History Part 1 class. I'm going to make this announcement kind of brief because I'm in a public space here, so I'm going to make it a little bit brief, but I just wanted to let everyone know, first of all, this week we are going to be dealing with the period leading up to the American Civil War, which we'll be getting into subsequently over the next several weeks. This week we're going to be looking at the expansion of slavery in the United States, or the increasing embeddedness of slavery in the Southern economy, and how that led to a dispute uh, in the United States that boiled into increasing political hostility until ultimately the Civil War broke out. We're going to go back into uh, the middle period of the century of the 1800s and talk about uh, uh, the slave system. We'll consider refuting some of the commonly held myths about slavery. We're also going to look at some of the events of expansion continentally that furthered this crisis, this political crisis over the institution of slavery during the 1800s. Particularly, we're going to be looking at the Mexican-American War, and that will be the topic of this week's factoid. But before, remember, we have a paper. If you haven't done paper option 1, our second paper option is due at the end of this week. We just had our test, so you have the opportunity to write one of those papers. Remember, you have 3 options to write one paper in this class. Of course, if you do this one and you do the last one, I'll drop your lowest grade. If you haven't done the first one and you don't do this one, then you have to do the third one unless you wish to receive a 0 for the paper, which I know none of us want to receive a 0 for a paper. So if you didn't do the first paper, I really, really strongly encourage you to make sure that you do the second paper. So that paper is due at the end of this coming week, Sunday. Remember, on that paper, you're writing on a topic that deals with an aspect of the history that we've covered in this last test section. I want to see you use 3 different academic sources. List those 3 sources at the end of the paper. When you list them, you should have author, title, publisher information. I also want you to cite the paper in the text. So when I look at your paper, I expect to see 3 different sources cited throughout that paper to demonstrate where you've gotten the information that you're using in the paper. So make sure you're citing the paper. Use parenthetical citations. Just have the author's last name or the page number. If there is no author, the title and the page number. If there is no page number, then just the author. Remember, a URL is not a reference. Your references at the end of the paper should always have uh, author, title, publisher information. Remember, too, make an argument. Make a specific argument. So this week, as we read about the issue of slavery and so forth, a good argument would be that that despite the fact that the institution of slavery had been barred in terms of the international trade, the international slave trade had been barred in the United States. But despite that fact, the cotton gin, a technology used in the South to de-seed cotton and really created an explosion of the textile industry in the South, led to an increasing reliance by much of the South on a slave economic system. And so an argument could be that the innovation of the cotton gin resulted in the the deeper entrenchment of the, the terrible institution of slavery in the South during the 1800s. And as a result, the cotton gin, to a significant extent, helped lead to the American Civil War as the South became sort of entrenched in this kind of backwards system of slavery, while the North in other parts of the world began to advance into more diverse industrial type of economics. And so you could make an argument that it all went back to the cotton gin. So just an example, make a specific argument. Defend your point with evidence throughout the paper. Factoid. So the factoid for this week is this. It'll be kind of short, but it's interesting. Remember, to get that bonus point on a test score at the end of the term, just email me that factoid no later than Wednesday by midnight. Just send me an email. Tell me what the factoid was. I put you in a special folder, and you get bonus points for that. So really easy way to help your test score, a test score at the end of the term. The factoid is this. James K. Polk, who was president during the Mexican-American War, so he became president. He was president 1845 to 1849. He's most associated with things like the annexation, or I shouldn't say the annexation, but he's most associated with the settling of the border dispute uh, that created the current border of Washington State today. He's associated most significantly with the Mexican-American War and the acquisition of territories like California, the territories of New Mexico, becomes Arizona, and of course also uh, defending the incorporation of Texas into the United States as well, which was Texas had become an independent country in the late 1830s, technically. And of course, it's during the 1840s that Texas is annexed, and then during the Mexican-American War has its sort of incorporation into the United States, during the presidency of James K. Polk, really cemented. Here's the interesting thing. James K. Polk, first of all, considered himself to be a Jacksonian. He was like the last president of the so-called political era of Jacksonianism. But here's the factoid. James K. Polk is the last president in the history of the United States to hold open office hours. On Wednesdays, theoretically, any American citizen could come and meet the president and, complain or congratulate or ask for help on one issue or the other. You could come technically, you could come to the White House on Wednesdays and take a number and wait. And theoretically, the president had open office hours. That didn't mean everybody necessarily got to see the president, but theoretically, James K. Polk was the last president to, not only the last of the Jacksonians, he was the last president to theoretically have open office hours, if you will, for American citizens. Email me that factoid no later than Wednesday by midnight. Let's have a great week.